going to record this for the purposes of parents and guardians are unable to attend or have to leave in the middle of this meeting. We totally understand. Or if it's such a fantastic presentation, you want to view it later on, you're certainly welcome to do so. Again, welcome. We're typically presenting to all of the families face-to-face. We miss our students, we miss our families, and we are excited to transition to the hybrid program starting on Monday, October the 26th. The staff has put a tremendous amount of work into preparing for the hybrid transition. Starting in the spring, when we had to pivot quickly to remote learning, we learned a lot from the type of quality of teaching and learning that we wanted to provide our students. Professional development, professional learning took place in the summer. The committee work provided us great feedback and to prepare for virtual learning and now for hybrid. Today, we'd like to review with you as an administrative team. We are going to go over goals and expectations with the hybrid phase. What does that look like in terms of the bell schedules, the instructional expectations, technology, as well as other questions that you may have in terms of hybrid learning. What are our students' expectations in terms of attendance and choices in terms of our code of conduct? Mr. Ascona will be reviewing that. We're lucky enough to have our terrific nurse, school nurse available, Mrs. Sexton. She's joining our parent presentations with Mr. Bretz to review our health and safety plan, aligned with our district health and safety plan. What measures do we have in place for the in-person learners? Ms. King, she previously sent information in regards to our freshman transition, as well as our orientation. So she'll be presenting updates regarding our really exciting transition we have this week for a cohort of students. And guidance staff support, extremely important that we support our students social and emotionally. We'll talk about next steps in our timeline. To begin, I'd like to introduce the administrative team once again. I am fortunate enough to work with a terrific team that really put the best interest of your children, our students, in mind first and foremost. We've worked vigorously since the spring to prepare for virtual learning and hybrid learning, and several minutes ago in classrooms, moving desks out of rooms to ensure social distancing. I want to thank the team for all of their work in preparation for our students, your children, to transition on Monday for hybrid learning. Terrific group. We have Mr. Ascona, one of our assistant principals, and today he'll be reviewing expectations in terms of choices and extracurricular activities during the school day that we can provide during bonus block. Assistant principal in charge of athletics, he's been quite busy this fall, is Mr. Bretz. Mr. Bretz will be reviewing our health and safety information and a lot of the facilities work that we've been conducting the past couple of weeks in consultation with our facilities department to prepare our school building safely for our students. Ms. Heather King, another assistant principal, she recently sent communication in terms of our freshman orientation for our students. She'll be sharing that information, what lunch will look like, as well as the supports that we have for all of our students. And Mr. Price, another assistant principal, he'll be reviewing scheduling information as well as technology information in terms of what our students need before Monday begins in hybrid learning. Just so we're on the same page, and this is the similar slide that we showed you when we started virtual learning. If you take a look, just so we're on the same page in terms of language, we are transitioning to the hybrid learning phase as per the board's approval. That begins on Monday, October the 26th. So for the folks in the audience that are remaining virtual, this still pertains to you. We have cohort A students attending Mondays and Wednesdays, cohort B students attending Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then we have cohort V, we'll call it, which are our virtual students that are remaining virtual. So right now we're in the hybrid learning phase. The term that we've been using with our students, with our staff, and with our community, and with you, our parents, is flexibility. Obviously, we need to be flexible in terms of the phases, flexible in terms of expectations. Again, our staff has been working a tremendous amount behind the scenes preparing for remote learning and as well as hybrid learning. So I want to applaud their work, but obviously we need to be patient, we need to be flexible, and we need to also be very, very supportive during this very tenuous time with COVID-19. What are our goals? If you look at it, we're staying the course. I think we've put a lot of work in the summer and into the fall, prepare for virtual learning. I hope that you as parents and our students are extremely pleased with the quality of teaching and learning. Once again, I'm applauding the teachers' work. They pivoted really quickly with professional development, professional learning behind the scenes in order to prepare for hybrid learning. Number one, establishing set expectations and standards in terms of consistency, attendance, our schedule, and accountability. Applaud all of our students and you as parents supporting our students, ensuring we have great attendance in terms of Zooms. It starts with you at home as parents and guardians at home with our students, and obviously kudos to our students as well for every day ensuring that they're on with our teachers. We take great pride in teaching and learning. We did pre-COVID, and obviously we are right now during COVID. We expect that, the community expects that. We have high expectations for our students. We increased the level of synchronous learning during virtual learning, and we'll continue to do so when we transition to hybrid learning. Best practices indicate to blend synchronous and asynchronous learning. We'll talk about that in a second. We want to ensure we balance both to make sure that our students are learning at a high level. Supports are really important. We're constantly looking at data. We have a variety of supports in terms of academics and social and emotional. We want to ensure that we're supporting our students academically and socially in terms of safety nets, bonus block, and after school. And the social and emotional well-being of our students is quite critical. We all know that. So we want to ensure that we provide opportunities for students to connect beyond the walls of the classroom. And that goes into the clubs and activities during bonus block, and also providing opportunities for supports and resources. So what does that look like? I know a lot of families submitted questions in terms of hybrid instruction in our schedule. I spoke to a number of parents in terms of some information that parents may have heard regarding hybrid instruction in terms of virtual learning. This picture will show you and capture what it looks like for a student in cohort A, cohort B, or cohort V. If you are in cohort A at this time, you received information from us as a school. In-person learning will take place on Mondays and Wednesdays. Remote access from home and live class sessions via Zoom on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and everybody being virtual on Fridays. Cohort B, in-person learning on Tuesdays and Thursdays, remote access from home on Mondays and Wednesdays, and similarly on Fridays, a virtual day. We have about 400 to 500 families and students that would like to continue with virtual learning, cohort V, and that is remote access from home every day. So you can see there's a balance between meeting the needs of the students that are in person, the cohort that's at home learning virtually, and the full virtual students. You're probably thinking, how are we going to go about doing that? Well, first, let's take a look at the schedule. And all of this information, number one, this is recorded. We'll be posting on our website. We'll have the S'mores digital newsletter. We'll post it as well. All this information, we are going to quiz you in the end to make sure you memorize this. But if you do forget this information, make sure we post it. The bell schedules are also posted on Canvas for our students and our families. But if you take a look, we are starting block 1 at 7:35 a.m. That's for a number of reasons. Number one being transportation. We need to ensure transportation is moving along to the middle schools and then elementary schools. We're going to ask our students to stagger the arrival. Our bus students will be arriving between 7:05 and 7:15. Our drop-off students, the parents are dropping off, will be between 7:15 and 7:30. And then all the drivers will arrive between 7:25 and 7:35. We're asking all of our students to report directly to block 1. That's important for social distancing. And we'll talk about it later. I want to steal Mr. Bretz's thunder later on for his slides. We are going to expect for students not to congregate as well. We're going to have clear expectations in terms of social distancing. So all students upon their arrival will report directly to their block 1 classroom. As you can see here, we wanted to maintain, we're lucky enough to have a block schedule. Districts such as Lower Merion, Council Rock. Other school districts are revising their schedules to align closely to ours to have larger blocks of time and less transitions. We're fortunate enough to have a 5-block schedule. We'll maintain that. We have 55 minutes per block, as you can see. First block being 7:35 to 8:30. And we have a 10-minute transition between classes. That's important, number one, for our students to transition from block to block, class to class safely, as well as our students at home to have a quick break between blocks. We found it valuable talking to students, talking to the teachers. The 10-minute transition was critical in between blocks in addition to reducing screen time. Block 4 will be our lunches. We will talk a little bit later regarding what that looks like. All of our students will be assigned an A, B, or C lunch. Typically, it's dependent upon your child's course. We have to be very strategic, and Mr. Brett's will be going over this later. We have a max size in our cafeteria, our courtyard, and as well as our auditorium. Only a specific number that we can hold in those 3 areas during the 3 lunches. So we're going to be strategic in terms of assigning our students lunches, ensure that they're 6 feet apart. So your student will be assigned an A, B, or C lunch. And as you can see there, the other blocks of time counter to the lunch will be their academic 4th block. 5th block will be 1:10 to 2:05, and then at 2:05 we'll have a staggered dismissal, which I'll talk about in a second. So what are our expectations in terms of instruction? And before I do so, here's a picture that depicts what the staggered arrival will look like, and then the staggered dismissal. We'll be dismissing at 2:05 with all pickup students being on Germantown Pike. We talked to White Marsh Police Department, Mr. McDonald today. They are allowing, as we typically do, pickup outside on Germantown Pike. We'll release the drivers between 2:05 and 2:15, even if your son or daughter is attending with an older sibling, they can leave between 2:05 to 2:15 to head to the parking lot and exit via the Gym West lobby doors or the bus lane doors to head home, and our bus riders between 2:15 and 2:20. All right, instructional expectations. How are teachers going to balance between in-person learners, cohort at home, as well as our virtual learners? Such a trick, and I give our teachers credit. They spent the entire day on Monday during the professional development, this past Friday for the early dismissal day, working all of the details out in terms of what it's going to look like. Number one, our students will be following his or her 5-block schedule. That's a given. So whatever schedule's in Power School, our students will be following in the same order with the same teacher. Number 2, daily objectives and new instruction will be shared with cohorts of students simultaneously on Zoom. The students in class in school will not be on Zoom the entire block. However, the Zoom is the main hub, the main connect for the entire class, the classroom community. We'll talk a little bit about that, what that's going to look like. Students who are remaining in virtual learning will access the curriculum and instruction via Zoom as well as Canvas. It's important, we use that word here, equity. It's important that our students that are at home receive the same access to materials, curriculum, and instruction that the students are using in class. It's important. If we ever have to transition back to the virtual learning phase, we do that seamlessly. There's same access in terms of curriculum, instruction for the in-person learners, to the virtual learners, to the at-home learners if they're in cohort B on a particular Monday. It's very important. Attendance will be similar. So long as our students are logged into Zoom or face-to-face for a live lesson. So if they're in person in class for an in-person lesson, or they are logged in Zoom for a live lesson synchronously, that is checked off in terms of attendance. If a student is not on the Zoom or not in class, they will be submitted via Power School attendance in terms of an absence by our students. We'll communicate that, so it's very important. If indeed a student has to quarantine, if they're home, if they're sick, and it's an in-person day, and they're at home learning virtually, synchronously, they can certainly just log into the Zoom, ensure that they email the teacher ahead of time, inform the teacher, and the teacher will know that they are present for the particular class. Similar to the virtual learning phase, grading practices Standard grading practices will be followed as we did with virtual learning. All right. Additional instructional expectations for our staff as well as our students. We will follow blended learning models. We typically have, teachers have been learning on the fly, learning collaboratively in their PLTs. Just again, a tremendous job flipping instruction using a number of tools such as Kami and Nearpod, and obviously Canvas is our main platform. The word is balance. We understand our students as far as screen time for 7 hours max, sometimes during the day on Zoom if they're in virtual learning. We understand that there's a balance between synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. We're going to request for asynchronous activities to be given for our students as well. For our in-person learners, they're going to log in Zoom as soon as they're in class, see their learning community. The teacher will be sharing all the information as they typically would via Canvas, but they have an opportunity, number one, quite a difference to get the in-person learning by their teacher. Teacher makes the biggest difference, obviously, in education. They're up front teaching. They can hear from the speaker, they can see the teacher teaching as well as speaking, and they can access all that information via the Interact board. As a learner myself in doctoral courses, I like to have my laptop open, toggling between my Canvas, my Google, as well as my email, as well as I can access the information up front on the interactive board. The students in the class will have that ability when they're in the classroom. They do not have to have their headphones on at that time. Mr. Price will talk about that when we go over technology. The only time that they will need and require to have their headphones on, if you're an in-person learner, is during breakout rooms and breakout sessions in Zoom. It's important that our students in class, as best as possible, connect with the students at home via breakout rooms. Please be patient with us. We are working through some audio and sound issues. It is an evolving process, but we'll work out as a staff. However, we will ensure that our students are in breakout rooms either within one another, within the classroom, or mixed in with the students at home. There'll be a blend of class discussions, breakout rooms, and on-site engagement projected on the interactive board for our students. One point I wanted to make before we transition to technology, what do Fridays look like? So we have Monday through Thursday adhering to this specific schedule. We have a Friday early dismissal day at 11:45 a.m. for all of our students. In the morning, it will be all synchronous instruction. We'll have a revised schedule, which is posted on our Canvas sites, and it'll be posted also on our website. Modified times during each block until 11:45. Our students will be ended all virtually at 11:45 a.m. Between 12:15 and 2:45 will be asynchronous learning, makeup work, asynchronous activities for our students, catching up on work for a particular class. All content specific will be the afternoon. That really provides us valuable time as a staff to hone instruction to get even better with hybrid learning and virtual learning. So it's important that our teachers have that virtual learning, planning, and collaboration time in the afternoon, which we're really looking forward to, and we're really going to utilize to the best of our abilities to provide even better quality education for all of our students. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Price, who is going to review technology. Mr. Price?
Thank you, Dr. McConney. So we have a few things to go over in regards to technology. I know many of you are asking questions, what it will look like in the classroom and what happens when we need support. So that's what we'll cover right now. So we work with a committee, and as Dr. McConney mentioned, gathered feedback from both staff, parents, and students going back to March to figure out, as we're transitioning to a hybrid, what it would look like. We gathered the teachers, obviously they're front and center as they're leading instruction in the classroom, to figure out what they would need. And we started building committees to identify those technology needs for the classroom, because it does look much different in regards to technology troubleshooting in the classroom. And also look to support teachers so they were able to test this technology. Within the classroom, we can tell you that the classroom has changed a little bit since in the last couple weeks. All teachers now have dual monitors. Now, why that doesn't really help students and won't change their level of engagement, it does make a huge difference for the teachers. They're able to see what we call the Hollywood squares of all the students in the class, and then have a screen dedicated to all the instructional materials they need. So it's making life a lot simpler. Document cameras exist in the classroom and have for quite some time here at the Colonial School District. Here at the high school, they are name brand the HoverCam. They are part of not only the camera, but also the microphone for the in-class experience. The projectors, and in the ceilings, there is overhead sound systems. So for those of your students who are joining the hybrid and coming back to Plymouth White Marsh High School, starting next week, we'll be able to hear the experience within the classroom instead of, as Dr. Bacani mentioned, just zooming in on that screen the entire time to that end in regards to sound. There will be student device charging power strips. One of the questions in the chat room that I just answered was, if the technology will not last 6 hours, can they charge it throughout? And the answer is absolutely yes. So classrooms will have devices where students will either be close to an outlet themselves, or we will have charging strips that kind of lend themselves flat across the rug into the middle of the room so that students aren't getting up, crossing others' paths as well. The interactive board for teachers interact and navigate, which is where the projector projects all the materials for those in class as well. And then of course, Canvas, which is our learning management system, and Zoom for the entire classroom experience so that all students have access to one another. So some of those things you're familiar with since March, and others, if you visited our classrooms before, you would have seen some of these, but this is what is a standard here at Plymouth White Marsh High School. What students will need. All students will need an individual device and a charger daily. Now, many of you have been using desktops at home. We've sent out plenty of surveys, but we continue to take requests, and there will be opportunities once your child returns if by chance you change your mind. Some of the parents and students have just started asking, if we have a device but choose not to send it in, will we be issued one? And the answer is yes. We would just need notification of that. We'll be in contact of how to pick it up and when as well. If you know that now, there is a link on the website, the Plymouth White Marsh High School website, that you can click as early as right after this presentation, and we'll be in touch tomorrow at some point to schedule those. We've been doing it all the way going back since March, and we'll continue to do it as need. No student will receive more than one device from Plymouth White Marsh High School or the Colonial School District. And if you don't need one, that's great as well. We'll talk about BYOD in a minute. And lastly, we have requested that students bring in headphones or earbuds, not the Bluetooth ones. We don't need expensive ones. There are $4 ones from Five Below. You can find some at Target. The sole purpose, just so you're aware, is so that when students are communicating in breakout rooms, in small groups, with other students in their classroom, because we do not want to lose the student-to-student interaction, they will need to be able to talk to one another without feedback within the room. The same as if your student is in person, watching a teacher from the front of the room, the interactive board, to have all the computers on at the same time, possibly feeding back all the information, you will get what we call a little bit of reverb, and we're trying to avoid that as well. So earbuds that do plug in are the best. Bluetooth may work, but we're asking you to avoid those at this time. Next, we'll talk about technology supports. When students are here in the building, our Library and Media Center has always been the hub for students to stop by. They're still able to do so. And we'll have social distance protocols as well. Students will be able to come in though, fill out a form. There are digital ways to do that as well when they need support. And we also have Canvas class of pages, class of 2024, 2023, and so on. So all the information that we're consistently communicating via social media, via the website, is also on this Canvas page. We'll talk more about that for you as the parent shortly. If you're unaware how to get access to these Canvas pages, we have information for you to do so. So when students are in person, they will visit the Library Media Center. They can obviously talk to their teacher, and we'll point them in the right direction. From home, it doesn't matter if you're hybrid or virtual, you consistently have CSD support at colonialsd.org to email us and communicate whatever you need in regards to technology support. We will ask, as part of the family, there's the family handbook. You can access it via this presentation as when we post it via this link, or you'll find it also on the PW website. It is called the Family Handbook. There are a bunch of pages that we ask, what are you doing in regards to how will we manage BYOD? expectations for your student and technology, and you can look at it at that point. We'll answer many of your questions. We did mention devices as well. If you have a CSD device or will be requesting one, we will have a support for you and your child when they're in the building to return it for repairs, exchanges, and so on. Sometimes things pop up with technology, we know that, and we will address them as needed. Similar to many institutions, when they return something that needs a repair, we'll have a similar process as well here. Bring Your Own Device has been here since 2013 at Plymouth White Marsh High School. We know that technology is needed for learning and instruction. So if you choose to bring in your own device, there are specific protocols and Wi-Fi that will be accessible. This information will all be on your student's Canvas page. How will I access it? What is the name of the Wi-Fi network? How can I log in, and so on. Lastly, we did talk about earbuds. Instructional applications. We are lucky to have Mr. Brian Adams. Many of you may know him from Ridge Park Elementary many years ago. He's been with us for a few years now here as our instructional technology specialist. And when students have issues regarding login to Canvas, PowerSchool, Zoom, or even printing, they will be able to contact Mr. Adams and work with him as well. Again, if you're not on campus, I just want to remind everyone that you can easily reach out to the main office by phone, but the email address csdsupport@colonialsd.org is the best way to reach us. And then lastly, we talked a little bit about your Canvas page as parents. If we can go to the next slide, Dr. Bacani.
Mr. Price, real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just
Sure.
going through the chat. I don't know if you just went over the type of earbuds that are required, we're requesting for.
Absolutely. They are the plug-in type. I believe they are typically technology terms. I know I should know this. 1/8 inch, 3.5 millimeter. They are, I can't unplug my current computer and show you, but they have a little adapter that literally plugs in. So if you look at old headphones, the old iPhone headphones used to do this as well. Now we're not talking about the lightning adapters that have a flat based edge or the Bluetooth, but we can send more information and put a picture on this on the website as well, Dr. Bacani.
So parents, we'll follow up with a specific type of headphone that we're requesting families and students to bring in. We'll do that after the meeting. Thanks, Mr. Price.
Absolutely. And we did mention your student will be accessing many pieces of information, already doing so: bonus block, schedules, calendars, news events through their Canvas class of page. But you, the parent, if you're not already doing so, have the opportunity to be a parent observer in all your child's classes and even this class of page. There are directions here on this website and even a small video that will take you there, and it will simply ask you, once you reach that screen, do you need a Canvas account? Click here, it's free. Now, if you just simply do a Google search and type in Canvas, you won't necessarily find the right link that you need to. The link is here, visible now, colonialsd.instructure.com, and that will take you to our Canvas page. You will see a dark blue screen with the Colonial School District logo, and that's how you know you're in the right spot. So you do need our specific URL to get to that spot. Once you do so and you create an account, it's going to ask you for a pairing code, and there's only 2 ways to get those. Your child can easily log in. It will ask them to pair their account with an observer, and it's going to give you a 6-digit alphanumeric code. You can always call us or reach out to CSD support, and we can get right back to you. So those are the 2 ways. So you'll set up an account for free, and then you'll need the pairing code that matches to your child's. They can give it to you, or we can. And that information will link you to all the information we're talking about that they see as well. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. We wanted to put that in there. I know we had in the previous presentation, but we had a board member at a recent meeting really highlight the benefits of accessing your child's courses. And I know there are several parents that have asked for this information. Here it is. We'll post on the website as well. Really a great way to, again, work collaboratively to support your children and our students here at PW. Thank you, Mr. Price.
Absolutely.
Mr. Ascona, student expectations.
Thank you, Dr. Bacani. we're going to follow very similar expectations as we have been following in the virtual phase. So students, the only difference is obviously involving social distancing within the schools. So the code of conduct is still in effect. Students must maintain social distancing at all times, and masks are required at all times other than while eating lunch and seated while eating lunch. Partner small group activity will be conducted either through Zoom or shared documents, and materials and resources can be used in instruction only if they're specifically assigned to students, so that, or if they're disposable, so that students don't cross-contaminate the equipment and therefore violating the social distancing safety measures that we have in place. So all students that are at home will have access to the same information and as the students that are in the school. So as far as like basically what I mentioned just earlier, students must wear masks at all times. There are some students that were planning on wearing shields, but a mask must be worn. If you're wearing a shield, you must have a mask underneath of the shield in order to be as safe as possible. As I mentioned, students while seated, just as you would in a restaurant, while you're seated, while you're walking to your seat, you wear a mask. While you're seated, eating your lunch or breakfast, and then you may take off your mask. But that's make sure that the students must be seated at that time. Social distancing, students must be 6 feet apart at all times, and students may not physically touch one another. Obviously, students like to shake hands, fist bump. We can't do that. It is just not safe. No congregating in hallways or bathrooms, as Dr. Bacani mentioned earlier. And with our staggered entry, we're going to ask all students to go directly to block 1. And hallways and bathrooms will be monitored throughout the school day by our administration, security, hall monitors to make sure the students are following the guided paths that are in the hallways, and also minimizing the number of students in the bathroom at the same time. After receiving one warning for violation by teachers, because we know that in some cases students may want to just adjust their mask, or maybe the mask is bothering them, but the teacher will instruct the student to put the mask on, or just let them know that they're violating our safety guidelines. And if the student does not comply or continues to break the guidelines, the violation may result in just full virtual learning.
Thank you. I think we just need to emphasize the importance of safety. We are excited to have our students back. We miss all of our students, but safety is first and foremost. I don't know if you've noticed, but Council Rock School District did recently shut down due to COVID. We want to ensure our students are, just as the data and research indicates, farther than 6 feet apart at all times. And as Mr. Ascona said, that's a safety measure to have our masks on at all times. We'll communicate this to all of our students during class meetings, as well as being present throughout the entire building, and as well as security. And our teachers will receive this information as well to ensure this is followed. Again, safety of our students is first and foremost. Thank you.
Okay, bonus block. Students will be participating in bonus block Monday through Thursday. On Friday, the schedule does not permit for bonus block because it is a shortened schedule. The students will report directly to their home-based bonus block classrooms in order to minimize exposure to other students. So students will sign up for their clubs, activities, and or academic help, just as they have been now. and as they have been doing in the past. Students may choose to use bonus block as a study hall or just a time to complete assignments. Students do not necessarily have to sign up for a bonus block session. They just can go to or will go to their home-based bonus block classroom, and they will just complete their assignments or study for a test or do something useful with the time. Students will attend scheduled sessions via Zoom. The Zoom links are provided in the Student Canvas page. Students have already been logging into teacher Zoom sessions, and they'll do this so they don't have to go to separate classrooms and expose themselves to other students. Activity sessions will take place on Monday, or I'm sorry, advisory sessions will take place on Mondays and every other Thursday. That has not changed. That's the same as what we've been doing for the past several years. And students may attend in-person or virtual sessions with counselors, nurses, administrators, etc. By appointment. So they will receive information as to where they should go, and they will have personal sessions socially distant from the counselor, nurse, administrator, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Ascona.
Sure.
Transition to the health and safety plan. We have Mr. Bretz, who's been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, ensuring our building is safe for our students' transition, as well as Mrs. Sexton. Before I do, I'm just going to quickly show the parents and guardians a quick video. Give credit to Mrs. Newell. This was showed at the board meeting. I thought it captures a little bit of what the work that we've done to prepare our students for the return in terms of safety.
Since the pandemic began, the Colonial School District has been working hard to make sure our schools are safe places for students and staff. With that in mind, some things might look a little different than what you're used to. When students first arrive at school, some will enter the building through the front door or where you normally do. But to spread people out, you may be assigned to enter the building at a different door. All students will go straight to their classrooms. There are arrows, lines, and signs on the floors to let students know which way to walk and help you socially distance from others. In some buildings, students will only be able to move in one direction in certain hallways. In buildings with stairs, stairwells may also be one way, either up or down. If you can go both directions, either in the hall or on the stairs, it will be clear where you can walk and the space you should avoid. You're discouraged from using the traditional part of the water fountains during the pandemic, so all students should be sure to bring a water bottle you can top off using the water fountain's refill feature. In the classrooms, everyone will spend their day at their own desk, but with fewer than half the number of students in the room, you'll be spaced 6 feet apart. Students will be able to move their desks to work together, or in the elementary school, spend time together on the rug. Unless you're eating, all students and staff must wear a face mask, including at recess or on the bus, except for the occasional mask break. From other people while you eat. You'll also be handed disposable silverware and items like individual packets of ketchup, and there won't be any self-service areas for students at the middle school or high school. Even at recess, elementary students will stay only with the other children from their classroom. The playground will be split into sections, and each group will only be able to access one part while they're outside. If a student wants to take a mask break outside, they must be 6 feet away from another person. During the day, custodians will be regularly disinfecting door handles, railings, and other touch points, and there are hand sanitizing stations in each classroom and around the school. Students will be encouraged to wash or sanitize their hands before and after lunch and recess. At night, the crew will also run foggers in each classroom and throughout the buildings, in addition to regular maintenance to make sure that everything is clean and safe. On the bus, students will be socially distanced and assigned seats, and only students from the same household will be able to sit together. We're definitely looking forward to the time when everyone can return to our schools and we can get back to the classrooms that we're used to. Until then, Colonial School District will continue to be making sure it's the safest it can be so our staff and students can continue to work, learn, and grow.
The district has been planning for different return models.
Kudos to Mrs. Newell for putting that together. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Bratz and Mrs. Sexton to go over additional details at PW in terms of our health and safety for our students and staff.
Thank you, Dr. Picani. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. As you can see on the first slide here, just mentioned in the video just prior, this health and safety of the students and staff is the utmost importance that we have during the school day and in the evening. All buildings will be disinfected nightly, as you can see with the gentleman there in the previous video with the fogger. Also, we'll make sure that the cleaning staff goes around and cleans all the hard surfaces, wipes them down. The doors will also, every classroom will have door stoppers that they can leave the door open if they choose to at the beginning and the end of the period. There are wipes in every single classroom to wipe things down if they need to. Even if the students feel the necessary need to have a wipe to wipe things down when either during class or at the beginning or end of class, they can do so as well. So it's all the common touch surfaces will be cleaned daily, multiple times a day throughout the day, before, during, and after lunches. All of those types of things will be done multiple times during the day. And I have to thank, Mr. Lally and his facilities team and the maintenance staff here at the high school for all the work and behind the scene work that they've done to help us get everything ready in hopes of having everyone back safely. And that includes the staff and faculty. And the most important part is the students being back here. Can't wait to have everyone back here. We've been not having students in here since May, that we've been back in the building trying to get ready for this. It'll be kind of exciting to have people around the building for once. All the water fountains and everything have been turned off, as you saw in the video as well. But as we move to the classrooms, you can see all the classrooms have been set up, socially distanced, 6 feet between the students' desks between each other. And then it's about 7 feet or 8 feet between the teacher's desk and the students, to kind of give a little bit more space that they can get up and use the inner whiteboard, and a table for them to use as well to have everyone interact during the class period. When you're using the laptops and everything, we've also looked into getting power strips and stuff put in there to make sure that we can power the devices throughout the period and before, during the period, or after the period as well. So you're going to take them with you. There's no mobile carts that are in there. They're all taken out to kind of maximize space and to minimize the cleaning services for those areas. And in talking about the hallways, every hallway here at PW High School is actually 2 directional right now, except for the stairwells. They're 1 directional, either up or down, and it is clearly marked. The bathrooms are clearly marked of, where to go, when to go in, how many people can go in the bathroom at a time. Also, hand sanitizers throughout the whole building. And then if you need extra hand sanitizer, they're in the rooms as well, on the walls. Moving to the cafeteria, as you can see, there are spots that you can sit on that are socially distanced, and they're 6 feet apart from each other. The long tables there, you can see there's about 3 people that can fit at a table. So the current capacity in the cafeteria is about 150 students inside there. That does not include the courtyard. So we also have the courtyard space for students to be able to go outside if it's nice to eat outside. And then the hallways in the cafeteria are 1 directional as well. So if you come in through the main lobby, you'll come in through there to the cafeteria area, and then exit from the 2 sides or at the far end if you need to go to the auditorium, or if we need additional space outside or anywhere else for that. Safety and screening. PW parents and guardians will be asked to screen their children before school starts each day. Students should stay home if they're not feeling well. And as we looked at what has happened so far with the fall in athletics. We've done a pretty good job in being diligent in making sure that we're screening our students and your children to make sure that they are good to go when they get here for the school day or for athletics or for an activity that is going on here on the campus. The staff will be monitoring the students' wellness and sending the nurses for evaluation if they suspect an illness. Individuals who are sick will be sent home and direct to contact their health provider. In speaking with that, some of the additional things that are not on the slide, I know a lot of people have asked so far of what health and phys ed is going to look like. PE classes. We're going to be looking not to use a swimming pool for regular swimming class. We're going to kind of take that out of the picture for right now, and it's just going to be the health components and fitness type of activities that we can make sure the virtual learners are involved as well. It's going to be very difficult to have virtual learners trying to swim without a pool available. So we're kind of taking the pool out of the picture right now, and it's going to be pretty much just fitness activities. And then when you have PE class, the days that you have PE class, we're just asking you to be dressed comfortable for phys ed class that day, not to come, dressed with a suit and tie on, but ready for physical activity if need be. And then change your sneakers. We are not currently using the locker rooms either. Again, that is high traffic areas that we're trying to cut down on using those types of facilities to clean multiple times during the day. The weight room we will be using if we can, depending on social distancing and what the activities are. And the virtual learners or remote learners will be modified to what activities they can do and what equipment that they can do. Our HP staff has done a nice job of trying to find ways and be creative to give the kids that are working virtually the opportunity to do the same activities that people will do in class. So that's kind of where we are with HP. And I know that was a big topic of discussion for the parking lot for the parents. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sexton now for the rest of the health and safety presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Bretz. So as Mr. Bretz mentioned, we're going to be asking parents to monitor their students every day before school. So you can see this checklist that is available on the website, and it's basically a little rundown of what we want you to look at every day before you send your child out the door. We want you to make sure you're aware of your contacts. We know we're not in a total lockdown situation anymore, so there are some small gatherings happening, people are socializing, and we just want you to be aware that if you're hearing from friends and family that people are testing positive or becoming symptomatic, you need to consider, should you keep your child home if they were exposed. Evaluate symptoms like runny nose, congestion, sore throat, difficulty breathing, the key ones we hear on the news for COVID, taste and smell loss, even some GI symptoms like vomiting, diarrhea. Those things we would want you to keep your child home. Check a daily temperature. We pre-COVID have a temperature policy that if you're over 100 degrees, you're not to be in school anyway. So if you hit that, we would not want you to send your child to school. Also monitor the state guidance for the states they're putting on their list for being high risk for COVID, that if you're traveling with your family or your students are traveling for travel sport teams or anything, be aware if they're hitting any of those high risk states and need to come back and quarantine prior to returning to school. And a good rule of thumb is just if you're in doubt, keep them home. Because if they come to us in the nurse's office or if a teacher notices symptoms in the classroom, they're going to send them to us, and we may end up sending them home anyway to err on the side of caution, following the guidance given to us by the county. Also, we would ask, of course, if you're keeping your student home for quarantine for any exposures or symptoms, you would let us know, as well as if you get them tested and they test positive for COVID. So this infographic is also on the website, just a little flow chart of when we would want you to keep your student at home and when it would be safe to send them. The return to school criteria, you can see below there. We definitely are following Montgomery County's guidelines. So we would want fever-free for 24 hours, symptoms improved, and at least If you've been exposed and they're quarantining, you'd have to be that 10 days since being tested or developing symptoms. The county guidance does change from time to time as they learn more about COVID. So some of these infographics are fixed, but we also have the link to the county guidance on the website as well. So that'll be updated as they update their guidelines for us. Hit the next slide. So when your student's at school and becomes ill or injured, the process for coming to the nurse's office is going to be a little bit different. We're typically where we would use a paper pass. We're trying to avoid the germs and passing papers back and forth. So if a student requests to go to the nurse, or if a teacher notices symptoms and wants to send a student, they will complete a virtual pass, which is basically a Google form that will be on their Canvas page. We will see that the pass is being filled out here, and it will ask some brief questions regarding the type of symptoms or the type of visit the student's coming for. If it's a Band-Aid or a personal product that they need or something along those lines, of course, we'll send the confirmation email back to the student. Go ahead and come down as long as we're not over our capacity, and they can come into the office. If the symptoms they check would lead us to believe we're a little bit suspicious for COVID, we do have an isolation room across the hall. So when we send them the go-ahead confirmation email to come to the nurse's office, we may just meet them at the door and take them over to the isolation room to assess them further to avoid any unnecessary exposures. And then we follow our process. We would evaluate, treat the students as needed, and either return them to class or send them home as indicated. And like I said, that's the guidance we'll be using, the Montgomery County COVID school exclusion recommendations, which I believe is on the next slide. And that's basically telling us, these are symptoms that we see with COVID, but we see with other ailments as well, fall allergies, strep throat. So we just want to make you aware that we are following this guidance. And if your child comes to us with a headache and a sore throat, we're going to be sending them home, even without a fever. So that's why it's really important for you to be doing those at-home screenings. And how I said, if you're in doubt, just keep them home. Because if they get into this process, we would likely be sending them home and referring you to your physician to either return with a differential diagnosis when their symptoms improve, or to get a COVID test and start that process. So again, like I said, this most recent update is October 5th, but this guidance from the county could be updated at any time, and that's why we have the link on the website. And then what happens if we do have positive cases identified in the school? The Montgomery County Health Department will be doing the contact tracing. And this is where this close contact and the social distancing really becomes important. They will personally notify close contacts to a positive case, which means if you are identified as being closer than 6 feet for 15 minutes or more, you become a close contact. And that ultimately is what we're trying to avoid, having any close contacts throughout the day. And that's why we're spacing desks and putting directional arrows in the hallways to make sure that we don't have these close contacts if, God forbid, we have a positive case here. Also, so if the case is confirmed, or if we have more than one case, we'll follow the guidance from the Montgomery County Health Department to determine what the next steps are as far as closing school and following their guidance. Families will continue to be notified like you have been when we've had positive cases. However, you will not be personally notified unless your student's been identified as a close contact.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sexton, Mr. Bretz. A lot of information. As Mrs. Sexton mentioned, we'll have this on our website, and we'll also add this to our digital newsletter, which we'll be sharing in the end. All this information compiled in one link. So this is a lot of information for you to take in. Any questions, please contact Mrs. Sexton's office or one of the administration members. Thank you again. Ms. King, supports and food service, breakfast and lunch.
Hi, everyone. I am going to go over a few things. Usually I don't read slides verbatim, but I have a lot of information in here. And again, it will be available for you to reference, but I do feel it's important to go through all of these points. The first thing we're going to start off with is a positive here. All students in the Colonial School District will be offered free breakfast and free lunch through the end of the school year. So we will be handing out breakfast to any student who would like to take advantage of that in 3 locations throughout the building. And we do ask that the students eat in the designated locations prior to the start of block 1. We are meeting with the students tomorrow, and we will go into this in a little more detail, and students will be made aware of the locations and the expectations. In regards to lunches, we always run 3 lunches, an A, B, and a C, and it's always designated by their block 4 teacher. That won't change. Students will again find out when their lunch is designated by their block 4 teacher. So a lot of questions around lunches. Students may pack their lunch, but we will also have them for, I put it as pickup or purchase, because again, all students will receive free lunch. However, we do have additional things that they can purchase if they'd like, or say they have a slice of pizza and they'd like 2, then they can purchase that. What we are going to do is have several locations for students to pick up or purchase that food. And we will start out with at least 3 daily options for student choice. And then there will be some additional items for purchase. We will ask that the students socially distance during breakfast and lunch and use those designated locations. Mr. Bretz went over that before. A lot of time has been spent marking locations so that the students are kept at a safe distance. We typically have pre-orders, but we are not going to do that until November. We are going to bring the students back into the building. Again, everyone is available to get that breakfast and lunch, so we don't feel the need. We will move the students through those locations quickly so that we can get them to their seat so they can take off their mask and eat and have a little bit of downtime. So if you have any specific food services related questions, you can email them to one of the 2 email addresses listed on here, or you can certainly email any one of our offices as well. So you may have seen some communication from me over the past week or so. We are welcoming all of our students, our 9th graders and our students who are new to PW over the next few days. We designated Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 8 to 2. We have identified some wonderful student ambassadors who will be giving tours of the building. If you haven't already done so, there's a tiny URL on here, or you can reference the letter that was sent out with a sign up genius, and you can sign up for a time slot. Your child will show up 5 to 10 minutes prior to their time that they signed up for. They should arrive to the main entrance, and they must have a mask. Again, we do ask if anyone's not feeling well that they stay home, and we will certainly take any opportunity in the future to show them around the building. We want everyone to be safe and happy. We will ask students to come to the main office, check in, and upon check-in, they will meet our lovely Mrs. Sexton, who you heard from earlier, who will do a health screening, which is what we do every year, typically during picture day, where they have their height, weight checked, and their vision. So if they wear corrective lenses, contacts, or glasses, they should wear them that day. Students will be excused from their classes for the time that they are present at the tour and time that's calculated in for travel time. We ask the teachers to work with the students, and if students miss any work, we ask that they be responsible and make that work up in regards to working with their teachers. I think I scheduled everything in there. Covered everything in there. I do know that we had some questions about school supplies, and really whatever the students have been using for the past month or so should be sufficient. We did cover the earbuds, but if any of the teachers need any additional materials, they will contact your student, or they'll tell your student. And if you have any questions about that, you can certainly ask us as well. One last slide that I have to review is about our guidance team. We have a phenomenal support system at our building. We have 4 guidance counselors that are that split up the alphabet. And we also have a college counselor, which you will, if you have an older child, you may have met her. If you haven't, you'll see her in a few years. We have a school psychologist and 2 community counselors. This team is part of a team that Mr. Ascona and I meet with at a very minimum twice a week to just discuss any of our students that we're concerned about, whether it be academic or emotional. But again, we're in contact with our counseling staff daily, a lot of times daily, just to really keep an eye on our kids and how they're doing. So if you feel a need for your child to check in with any one of us, we have a care team. You can feel free to email the counselors. You can call any one of us, and we will certainly get the ball rolling with whatever needs you feel need to be met. We are running programs. We often put them out on the web or on our counseling page for students to be involved in. We're really trying to support their transition as best possible. So again, please feel free to reach out to any one of us if you need any support and if you have any questions about any of the information that we have been talking about tonight. So, and thank you for spending this time with us. And we're really excited to see your kids back in the building. Or if they remain virtual, we'll be happy to see them hopefully soon as well.
Thank you, Ms. King. I know there was a lot of information that you had to take in this evening. Once again, thank you for all of your time. In terms of our communication, we have lots of it this week. We meet with your children, all the freshmen tomorrow during bonus block. So it's a mandatory bonus block. The link is posted on their Canvas page. We are meeting with 3 classes, the other classes, 21, 22, and 23 parents on Wednesday evening, as well as student meetings on Wednesday and Thursday to review key information. Again, appreciate all of your support. I know there were a lot of questions in the Q&A. Hopefully we answered for you. We did put some messages in a private manner to say, give us a call. Maybe easier just to talk to you via phone to go back and forth with specific questions. One particular question that was asked is regarding a transition from hybrid to virtual. Yes, indeed, if your child is in hybrid cohort A or B, and you decide based upon safety, what's best for your family or your child to transition to virtual learning, please give us a call, contact Mr. Price or myself, and we'll make sure we note that within our schedule, and then we can communicate that over to your child's teachers. In addition to that, we'll post all the information on our website. If you can see here, the top of the page on this screen is a hybrid learning resource. It is live. We'll send this to all the parents. It entails all the information we shared here today. In terms of hybrid learning, it's a S'mores digital newsletter. So we'll have active links to everything Mrs. Sexton communicated, as well as the schedules that our students will be following during hybrid learning. As well as the technology information that we have and the bonus block information and all the health and safety plan information that we're having in place here during hybrid learning. Once again, thank you. And if you have any other questions, please post it in the Q&A. Give us a call at any time as well, or send us an email. And we're looking forward to supporting you. Thanks again, families. Have a great evening. And those folks going to the CMS meeting, hope you have a great meeting, Mr. Failer. Thanks so much.